Ruth was asleep at midnight. Her phone was off. Her badge was in her bag by the door. So why did the server room log show her walking in at 12:13?
That's not possible. I was home. I was asleep. Run it again. Badges don't walk by themselves. Someone used mine.
It's not a mistake, Ruth. Someone wants the records to say it was you. Be careful who you trust now.
John was the board chair. He had no reason to help her, and every reason to look away. But something in those logs had made an old, careful man decide to take a side. He gave her one name, the security vendor who held the raw data Mark could never reach. The anonymous message from 3 weeks ago had said the truth lived on slide 43. Now slide 43 had been rewritten, to point the finger back at her. Whoever cloned her badge knew the building. Knew the schedule. Knew which cameras had blind spots, and when the night guard took his break. This was no outsider. This belonged to someone inside, someone afraid. Ruth pulled the after-hours access list. 11 names. 10 she trusted. And one whose badge had pinged the same server room, for minutes after hers, the same night. The last person she wanted it to be. Jane. Systems administrator. The quiet one who fixed everyone's problems, and never asked for anything. Ruth waited until the floor emptied, until it was just the two of them and the hum of the machines.
Jane, your badge pinged the server room 4 minutes after mine, the same night. Explain that to me. I didn't have a choice. He has something on me. You don't know what he's capable of when he's cornered.
And there it was. Mark hadn't just stolen one project. He had spent years building a quiet network of frightened people, each holding the next one secret, none able to speak. Jane was only the latest. There had been others. A junior accountant who left without notice. A manager who stopped speaking up in meetings. Ruth had thought it was coincidence. It was a pattern, and Mark was at the center of every thread. Jane's secret was small. A falsified expense from years ago, made when her mother was dying and the bills would not wait. Mark had found it, and kept it, the way a man keeps a key he might one day need. Ruth could have turned Jane in. It would have been easy, and fair, and it would have ended with both of them buried while Mark walked free. So she did the one thing Mark never planned for. She offered her a way out. Then we stop being afraid, Ruth said. Tonight. We pull the raw logs from the vendor, before he knows we're looking. Jane knew the systems. Ruth knew the story. Together they reached the vendor portal John had named, the raw records Mark believed only he could touch. Login by login, the real night took shape, and there it was, in cold timestamps. Mark's own credentials, opening the server room door a full hour before Jane ever arrived. He had been there first. But buried in the same logs was something neither of them expected. A second login. Not Mark's. Someone with access higher than Mark's had opened the same door that night. Someone whose name the system would not even display. For the first time, Ruth understood. Mark was not the top of this. Mark was someone else's tool. At 2 a.m, 3 floors up. Mark's office light came on. He was still in the building. If he opened the portal now, he would see them inside it. They had minutes, not hours. They copied everything. The proof against Mark, and the redacted login they could not yet name. They wiped their trail and closed the portal 8 seconds before his session refreshed. The light 3 floors up stayed on, unknowing. By the time the sky began to gray, they had enough to end Mark. Not the one above him. Not yet. But Mark was the door they had to open first, and the morning board meeting was their only chance. The board meeting was at 9. Mark would present the project he had stolen, to the very people who could promote him. He walked in polished, certain, with no idea the room had turned against him in the dark. He shook hands. He smiled. He opened his presentation, and the first slide carried his stolen title as if he had earned it. Ruth let him speak for 2 full minutes. She wanted the room comfortable, before she broke it.
Good morning, Mark. Before you continue, we'd like to add one slide to your presentation.
Sit down. You don't want to do this, Ruth. Think very carefully about your next move.
For 3 weeks he had counted on her fear. He had built his whole quiet empire on it. He had forgotten what happens when the frightened decide, all at once, to stop running. Ruth did not raise her voice. She walked to the front, and connected the drive. The stolen title vanished from the screen. In its place rose 3 words that made the whole room go silent. Access records. Verified.
This is every order you gave, every badge you cloned, every person you made afraid. Slide 43 has a name now, Mark, and it's yours.
Mark opened his mouth, and for the first time in years, nothing came out. No threat. No key to turn. No frightened face to hide behind. Around the table, the board sat frozen as the record scrolled. It was over. Ruth had won. And then John, the board chair, the man who had given her the name, the man she trusted, stood up slowly. Ruth waited for him to end it. To call security. To say the words that would finish Mark for good. Instead, John looked at the redacted login still glowing at the bottom of the screen, the name the system would not show. And his face went pale. Not with shock, with recognition. He closed the laptop. And he said the investigation was suspended, effective immediately. Mark had a protector. And he was sitting at the head of the table.